Most people are sleeping through the biggest supply shift of the decade. While the news cycles focus on luxury goods and inflation headlines, something far more sinister is happening in the aisles you visit every week. It's not the expensive items that are vanishing first. It's the life-saving staples, the cheap calorie-dense foods that have kept families alive during every crisis in history. I've been analyzing shipping manifests and market trends that the mainstream media ignores, and the data is terrifyingly clear. We are staring down the barrel of a massive inventory wipeout before the end of 2025. The pattern is already set. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the 20 absolute essential survival foods you need to secure immediately. These aren't just groceries. They are your insurance policy against a broken supply chain. And pay close attention to number 10. It's the one item everyone assumes will always be there, but the production numbers say it's about to become worth its weight in gold. Don't wait until the shelves are bare. Let's get to work. The white gold of the apocalypse. Most people view that small shaker on their dining table as a mundane seasoning, a mere afterthought to a meal. They are making a catastrophic mistake. When the supply chains crumble and the trucks stop running, iodized salt will transform from a cheap commodity into one of the most valuable substances on Earth. Historically, wars were fought over salt mines, and soldiers were paid in rations of this mineral. We are approaching a precipice where that history is about to repeat itself. Salt isn't just about flavor, it is a biological necessity. Without it, the human body begins to shut down. Muscles cramp, nerves misfire, and in a high-stress survival scenario where you are sweating and exerting yourself daily, a lack of sodium can be lethal. But the true value of this white gold lies in its preservation power. When electricity grids fail and freezers become useless coffins for rotting meat, salt is the only thing standing between you and starvation. It is the oldest preservative known to man, capable of curing meats and extending the shelf life of food for months or even years. Imagine a world where refrigeration is a forgotten luxury. In that world, the person with the salt controls the food supply. You can use it to create brine, pickle vegetables, and scrub cast iron cookware when soap is scarce. It can even serve as a primitive disinfectant for wounds when modern medicine is out of reach. The terrifying reality is that mining and shipping costs are quietly creeping up. As fuel prices spike, the cost of transporting heavy minerals like salt will explode. Right now you can buy a year's supply for a few dollars, but once the panic sets in, that price will skyrocket, and the shelves will be stripped bare within hours. This mineral never expires, it never degrades. It sits silently in your pantry, a permanent asset that will outlast any crisis. Do not underestimate the power of salt. Secure your supply before the rest of the world wakes up to its true worth. 2. The high-speed protein protocol. As the economy teeters on the edge, the luxury of long cooking times and wasted fuel is something you simply cannot afford. When the grid goes dark, every minute your stove burns is a drain on finite resources. This is where dry lentils emerge as the unsung heroes of survival nutrition. Unlike dried beans, which require hours of soaking and simmering, consuming precious water and fuel, lentils are ready in a fraction of the time. They are the ultimate fast food for a collapsed society. But don't let their speed fool you. They are a nutritional powerhouse packed into a tiny, shelf-stable package. Consider the logistics of survival. You need foods that are dense, lightweight, and incredibly durable. Lentils check every single box. A single bag contains thousands of calories and massive amounts of protein and iron, essential for keeping your energy high during physically demanding days. In a crisis, meat will vanish from the shelves first. It will become a memory. You will need a replacement that keeps your muscles functioning and your mind sharp. Lentils provide that critical protein bridge, preventing malnutrition when fresh food is no longer an option. Stored properly in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, they can sit unchanged for decades, waiting for the day you need them most. However, the clock is ticking on this resource. Major global exporters are already signaling trouble. Droughts and shifting agricultural policies in regions like India and Canada are squeezing the supply. Prices are beginning to twitch upward, a subtle warning tremor before the earthquake. When the mainstream public realizes that meat is gone, they will pivot to legumes, and lentils will be the first to disappear due to their ease of use. You are not just buying food, you are buying time. You are securing a source of life that requires minimal resources to prepare. Ignore the humble lentil at your own peril. Stockpile them now while they remain under the radar, because soon they will be out of reach. 3. The instant energy reserve. In the dark days of a supply chain collapse, energy is your most precious currency. Not just electricity, but the physical energy required to stay alive. Cooking traditional rice takes time, water, and a steady heat source, luxuries that will become scarce when the infrastructure buckles. This is why instant rice is not a convenience item. It is a tactical advantage. Imagine a scenario where fuel is rationed or you are forced to cook over a small camp stove or an open fire. You cannot afford to boil water for 40 minutes. Instant rice is ready almost immediately, requiring little more than hot water to rehydrate into a life-saving meal. This processed grain has already been cooked and dehydrated, meaning the hard work has been done for you. It removes the variables of cooking time and fuel consumption from the survival equation. When you are exhausted, cold, and stressed, the ability to produce a hot, calorie-dense meal in 5 minutes can be the difference between maintaining morale and giving up. It acts as the perfect canvas for whatever other meager supplies you have. Mix it with foraged greens, canned meats, or spices to create something that resembles a normal meal. It provides the carbohydrates your brain needs to function, keeping panic at bay. But looking at the global markets, a storm is brewing. Rice yields are fluctuating, and export bans are becoming common as nations hoard their own supplies. The price of rice has already seen double-digit percentage jumps, and instant varieties highly processed and dependent on manufacturing will face the steepest climbs. When the panic buying starts, the items that offer convenience will vanish first. People will desperate for anything that is easy to eat. Instant rice is currently cheap, but it is a fragile commodity in a volatile market. A few bags stored in a cool, dark place can last for years. Do not wait until the grocery store aisles are empty battlegrounds. Secure this quick energy asset now. 4. The long-term Sadie secret. When the hollow ache of hunger sets in during a prolonged crisis, you don't just need calories, you need to feel full. You need food that sticks to your ribs and keeps the hunger pangs away for hours. Dried chickpeas, often overlooked in favor of rice or beans, are the secret weapon for long-term satiety. They are dense, rock-hard pellets of nutrition that expand into hearty, filling meals capable of feeding a family for pennies. They possess a unique nutritional profile, loaded with fiber and protein, that digests slowly, providing a steady release of energy rather than a quick spike and crash. In a survival situation, mental fortitude is just as important as physical strength. Constantly feeling hungry wears down the mind. Chickpeas combat this by creating a sense of fullness that few other survival foods can match. They are incredibly versatile, capable of being mashed into hummus, roasted for a crunch, or stewed into a thick, comforting soup. They are tough, resilient seeds that are almost impervious to spoilage if kept dry. A bucket of chickpeas sealed today will be just as nutritious 10 years from now, a silent insurance policy against future famine. But the supply of this staple is more fragile than it appears. Crop failures in key growing regions are becoming frequent, and global demand for plant-based protein is straining the market. Analysts are quietly predicting price surges as yields struggle to keep up with consumption. Currently, they are an absolute bargain, a nutritional goldmine selling for dirt-cheap prices. But as inflation bites harder and meat prices soar, the world will turn to chickpeas. By the time the average shopper realizes their value, the price will have doubled, or the shelves will simply be empty. Grab them now. Seal them tight. Make them the backbone of your calorie reserve before the window of opportunity slams shut. 5. The ocean's forgotten superfood. There is a looming protein crisis that no one is talking about. When the trucks stop and the refrigeration units fail, fresh meat will become a dangerous memory within days. You need a protein source that requires zero energy to store and zero energy to prepare. Canned sardines and mackerel are the ultimate survival solution, yet most people walk right past them. These small tins are not just food, they are tactical rations. Each can is a sealed unit of high-quality fats, calcium, protein, and essential vitamins that can keep you alive and functioning in the harshest conditions. Think about the physiology of survival. Your brain is largely made of fat. In a high-stress environment, you need omega-3 fatty acids to maintain cognitive function and emotional stability. Sardines deliver this in spades. They are packed with more nutrition per square inch than almost any other food in the grocery store. Furthermore, the bones are soft and edible, providing critical calcium when dairy products are long gone. You can eat them straight from the can with no heating, no water, and no preparation. In a blackout, or when you need to keep a low profile, the ability to eat a nutrient-dense meal without lighting a fire or making noise is invaluable. But the ocean's bounty is not infinite. Overfishing regulations, rising fuel costs for fishing fleets, and supply chain bottlenecks are converging to create a perfect storm for canned seafood prices. We are already seeing the cost of aluminum canning and transport creep up. Industry insiders know that a price jump is imminent. Canned fish is currently one of the cheapest forms of animal protein available, but that status is temporary. When the panic hits, and people realize they cannot store beef or chicken, they will clear out the canned meat aisle in hours. Sardines and mackerel will be the first to go because they offer the highest nutritional return on investment. Do not be left holding an empty bag. Stockpile these tins now, while they are still affordable, and secure your protein future. 6. The dense energy dynamo. When the economic vice tightens and the shelves of the grocery store become barren wastelands, the most critical battle you will fight is against caloric deficit. Hunger is a slow, agonizing drain on your mental and physical faculties, and in a survival scenario, you need dense, portable energy. This is where peanut butter stops being a childhood lunch staple and becomes a life-sustaining asset. A single jar is a condensed brick of calories, healthy fats, and protein that requires absolutely no preparation. In the terrifying silence of a blackout, when cooking is impossible or dangerous due to the smell attracting attention, a spoonful of peanut butter is a stealthy, immediate fuel source. But the true prepper knows that standard jars have a shelf life limitation. The oils eventually turn rancid, betraying you when you need them most. That is why you must look deeper into the world of powdered peanut butter. This dehydrated variant is a miracle of modern food science, stripped of the oils that cause spoilage, but retaining the protein and flavor. Sealed in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, this powder can sit in your bunker for a decade, waiting for the moment the grid goes down. It is lightweight, non-greasy, and versatile. You can reconstitute it with water to make a spread, or mix it dry into oatmeal and shakes to boost the nutritional profile of meager rations without wasting a drop of precious water. The warning signs are already flashing red for those paying attention. Severe droughts in key peanut-growing regions are decimating crops, forcing processors to quietly hike prices by nearly 10%. This is just the beginning. As grain shortages drive up the cost of livestock feed, meat will become unaffordable for the masses, and the desperate public will pivot to alternative proteins. Peanut butter will be the first to tan because it is familiar, cheap, and calorie-dense. You are in a race against the herd. Secure your supply of both traditional jars for immediate use and powdered reserves for the long, dark winter ahead. Do not let your family's energy levels collapse along with the economy. 7. The resurrection of protein. In the annals of survival history, fresh eggs have always been a luxury that disappears the moment supply chains fracture. We have seen it before, prices tripling overnight, rationing enforced at the checkout counter, and empty coolers staring back at desperate shoppers. When the trucks stop rolling, your access to this essential protein source vanishes. Unless, of course, you have secured the secret weapon of long-term food storage: powdered eggs. This is not about culinary preference. This is about biological necessity. A single Swan 10 can of powdered eggs holds the nutritional equivalent of dozens of fresh eggs, immune to rot breakage or salmonella. Imagine a world where the power has been out for weeks. Your refrigerator is a warm, useless box. Your neighbors are trading silver for stale bread. Meanwhile, you can open a can and whisk up a scramble that provides the same high-quality protein, vitamins, and minerals as a farm-fresh breakfast. This powder is the ultimate chameleon of the pantry. It can be baked into breads to add structure, mixed into pancakes for morale-boosting comfort meals, or used to bind survival patties. It offers a psychological anchor to normalcy when the world outside is anything but normal. Properly stored in a cool, dark place, these cans will remain viable for up to 15 years, outlasting most governments. However, the supply chain for eggs is notoriously fragile. One wave of avian flu can cull millions of birds in days, sending shockwaves through the market. We have already witnessed price spikes of nearly 30% from a single outbreak. In a total collapse scenario, anything reliant on live animals becomes a rare commodity instantly. The window to buy powdered eggs at a reasonable price is closing. As feed costs rise and flocks are threatened by disease, this shelf-stable gold will become unobtainable for the average person. Secure your protein independence now. Don't wait until you are staring at a $20 carton of eggs to realize you should have bought the powder when you had the chance. Eat the white liquid lifeline. There is a specific kind of panic that sets in when the dairy aisle goes dark. Milk is a fundamental staple, crucial for children, the elderly, and for basic cooking. Yet, it is one of the most perishable items in existence. When the grid fails, milk spoils in hours. This vulnerability makes it a high-priority target for prepping. But you don't need a cow in your backyard to secure this resource. You need to understand the power of shelf-stable and powdered milk. This isn't just a drink. It is a nutritional cornerstone that provides calcium and protein when fresh meat and cheese are distant memories. Powdered milk is the ultimate long-game investment. When sealed correctly in mylar with oxygen absorbers, non-fat powdered milk can remain edible for an astounding 20 years. Think about that. 2 decades of security sitting on a shelf, impervious to blackouts and supply chain breakdowns. It allows you to create creamy soups, enrich baked goods, and provide a comforting glass of milk in the middle of a crisis. For the medium term, UHT, ultra-high temperature box, milk offers a ready-to-drink solution that sits in your pantry for a year, requiring no refrigeration until opened. It is a bridge between the immediate chaos of a collapse and the long-term reality of survival. But the global dairy market is tightening its grip. Demand from exploding populations in Asia and Africa is sucking up the supply of milk powder, leaving less for domestic shelves. Prices jumped 16% in a single year, and that trajectory is only pointing up. As energy costs rise, the energy-intensive process of drying milk becomes more expensive, and those costs will be passed on to you until the product simply isn't there anymore. In a collapse, dairy alternatives are priceless trade items. Stock up now while a bag costs a few dollars. When the shelves are empty, that white powder will be worth more than paper currency. 9. The hidden harvest. When the fresh produce section becomes a memory and scurvy becomes a legitimate threat, you will realize that survival isn't just about calories, it's about nutrients. Most preppers stack rice and beans to the ceiling, but forget the vital micronutrients required to keep the body functioning under stress. Canned pumpkin and sweet potatoes are the silent guardians of your health. These aren't just ingredients for holiday pies, they are nutrient-dense superfoods packed with vitamin A, fiber, and potassium. They provide the slow-burning carbohydrates necessary to keep your blood sugar stable when adrenaline and anxiety are burning through your reserves. These specific canned goods offer a rare combination of comfort and utility. They require zero cooking. You can eat them straight from the can, cold in the dark, and still receive a massive nutritional payload. But they are also versatile enough to transform a bland bowl of oats into a morale-boosting meal. They thicken stews, add moisture to survival breads, and provide a depth of flavor that can break the psychological torture of food fatigue. Their shelf life is deceptively long. While the date might say 2 years, a well-stored can in a cool basement can remain safe and nutritious for 5 years or more. They are a time capsule of the harvest, ready to be opened when the fields are barren. However, the climate is turning against us. Extreme weather events in the major growing regions for these crops are becoming the new normal. Floods and heat waves are destroying yields, driving costs up by 15% already. As the public begins to understand the fragility of fresh produce supply chains, they will turn to canned alternatives. The humble can of pumpkin will be swept off the shelves by panic buyers realizing they have no vegetables stored. Do not wait for the news report. Secure these nutrient bombs now while they are still seen as cheap seasonal items. In a nutrient-starved world, they will be your lifeline. 10. The golden grain of resilience. If you study the history of the Great Depression or the pioneers, you will find one common thread in their survival diet: cornmeal. It is the grit and backbone of resilience. In an economic collapse, your ability to stretch expensive ingredients is the difference between eating and starving. Cornmeal is the ultimate extender. It is incredibly cheap right now, pennies per serving, but its value skyrockets when you need to fill bellies. It transforms into cornbread, mush, polenta, dumplings, and johnny cakes. Hearty, heavy foods that provide the sensation of fullness and warmth that is critical for morale. Cornmeal is a survival workhorse because it pairs with everything: Do you have a little bit of powdered milk and an egg? You have cornbread. Do you have nothing but water and salt? You have a hot porridge that will keep you alive. It provides complex carbohydrates and essential trace minerals that help stabilize your energy levels when you are physically exhausted. Stored in its original paper bag, it is vulnerable, but if you seal it in mylar with oxygen absorbers, you lock in that nutrition for 5 years or more. It becomes a golden reserve of calories that is easy to cook and requires minimal fuel. But the global grain markets are trembling. Corn is not just food for people, it is fuel for cars, ethanol, and feed for livestock. When the supply tightens, the competition for this grain becomes fierce. Prices have already surged 14% due to supply chain disruptions and fertilizer shortages. If a wheat blight or geopolitical conflict cuts off other grains, the world will rush to corn as the fallback. The shelves will empty faster than you can imagine. Don't be the one searching for a box of mix when the aisles are bare. Buy the raw meal in bulk now. Seal it tight and guarantee your family has a warm, filling meal when the cold winds of economic collapse start to blow. 11. The instant morale anchor. When the lights go out and the cold creeps into your home, the psychological toll of a collapse hits harder than the physical hunger. You will be exhausted from the constant vigilance and the desperate scramble to secure your perimeter. In those dark moments, the ability to produce a hot, steaming mound of comfort food in seconds is not just a convenience. It is a mental lifeline. Instant mashed potatoes are often dismissed as a lazy weeknight side dish, but in a survival scenario, they transform into one of the most tactical food sources you can own. They require almost zero fuel to prepare. Unlike raw potatoes that demand 30 minutes of boiling water, a precious resource you cannot afford to waste. These flakes need nothing more than hot water to rehydrate into a caloric powerhouse. Consider the reality of a grid-down situation. You might be cooking over a single butane burner or a small twig stove. You need calories, and you need them fast. Instant potatoes are dense, easily digestible carbohydrates that flood your system with energy. They are the perfect vehicle for the other meager scraps in your pantry. Mix in some of your powdered milk, a spoonful of fat, or those precious canned meats, and you suddenly have a meal that feels normal. That sense of normalcy is a weapon against the despair that sets in when you are eating cold beans for the 10th day in a row. But the window to secure this comfort is closing. Agricultural reports from major potato-producing regions are grim. Climate volatility and soil degradation are hammering yields, driving the baseline price of potatoes upward. As fresh produce becomes a luxury item for the wealthy, the masses will turn to shelf-stable alternatives. The instant potato aisle will be stripped bare in the first hours of a panic. These lightweight bags can last for a decade if you transfer them to mylar with oxygen absorbers. Do not wait until you are shivering and hungry to realize the value of a hot meal that cost pennies today, but will be priceless tomorrow. 12. The Durham Defense Line. There is a reason pasta flies off the shelves before almost anything else when a storm approaches. It is the ultimate survival carbohydrate, a dense energy source that occupies very little space yet expands to fill empty bellies. But looking deeper, pasta represents something even more critical: leverage against a hungry family. When stress levels are peaking and your children are scared, they will refuse strange, unappetizing survival rations. They will not eat MREs or plain rice without a fight. They will, however, eat pasta. It is familiar. It is safe. In a long-term crisis, keeping your family fed without conflict is a victory in itself. Financially, pasta is currently the cheapest calorie on the market, hovering around $1 a pound. It delivers intense energy reserves that stick with you, fueling the hard physical labor required to survive in a world without modern conveniences. It is also incredibly forgiving. You don't need refrigeration, and it pairs with literally anything you have scavenged or stored. A can of tomatoes, a tin of sardines, a dash of oil, or even just salt and pepper. It transforms meager ingredients into a feast. Sealed in airtight buckets, pasta is a geological feature of your pantry, easily lasting a decade without losing its nutritional value or flavor. However, the global supply chain for pasta is fracturing. The price of durum wheat, the specific hard wheat required for pasta, is volatile. Droughts in Canada and scorching heat in Europe have devastated harvests, causing supply shocks that manufacturers are only just beginning to pass on to consumers. That 99-cent box is an endangered species. We are staring down the barrel of a price explosion where pasta moves from a budget staple a luxury good. You have a brief opportunity to stack 10, 20, or 50 pounds of this life-saving carb while it is still affordable. When the grocery store doors lock for the final time, you will want this reliable, kid-friendly staple in your arsenal. 13. The 30-year civilization seed. If you want to distinguish a casual hoarder from a true survivalist, look for the wheat berries. Most people stock flour, unaware that it is a ticking time bomb. Once wheat is ground, the clock starts. The oils oxidize, and the flour turns rancid within 6 to 12 months. It becomes useless. Hard red wheat berries, however, are the biological equivalent of a fortress. Nature designed these kernels to survive dormant for seasons, and when you store them in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, they essentially become immortal. We are talking about a shelf life of 25 to 30 years. This is not just food, this is a legacy you leave for your future self when the current world is a distant memory. Owning bulk wheat berries and a manual grain mill means you have declared independence from the industrial food system. While your neighbors are fighting over the last moldy loaf of bread, you can grind fresh flour daily. You can bake real bread, make fresh pasta, or cook the whole berries as a hearty, chewy porridge that fills the stomach for hours. Furthermore, wheat berries are living seeds. In the direst circumstances, when fresh vegetables are a thing of the past, you can sprout these berries to grow wheatgrass, providing a vital injection of vitamins and enzymes to prevent malnutrition. The market, however, is flashing warning signs. The breadbasket of America is drying up. Droughts across Kansas and Oklahoma are decimating winter wheat crops, tightening the export market and driving domestic prices higher. As global instability rises, nations are hoarding their grain. The days of cheap, abundant wheat are numbered. When the supply chain snaps, bread will be the first casualty. By securing a few 5-gallon buckets of hard red wheat today, you are buying the ability to bake civilization back into existence tomorrow. Do not rely on a grocery store that holds only 3 days of food. Be your own bakery. Be your own supply chain. 14. The stealth grain. Popcorn is the sleeper agent of the prepper pantry. To the uninitiated, it is a frivolous snack, something for movie nights and parties. To those who understand the data, it is a dense, dual-purpose survival grain masquerading as a treat. In a crisis, morale is as important as water. The psychological impact of a warm, crunchy, salted snack when the world is falling apart cannot be overstated. It brings a moment of joy and normalcy to a terrified household, but its value goes far beyond comfort. Popcorn is, at its core, a whole-grain corn product, with an incredibly hard outer shell that protects the nutrients inside for years. The secret utility of popcorn kernels lies in your ability to process them. With a sturdy hand mill, these kernels grind down into a delicious, sweet cornmeal. If you run out of standard cornmeal or flour, your stash of popcorn becomes the raw material for cornbread, polenta, and porridge. It is a backup for your backup because it is sold as a snack. It often escapes the panic buying that strips the baking aisle clean. While others are fighting over the last bag of flour, you can quietly secure pounds of this stealth grain. It stores compactly, takes up very little room, and expands massive volume when popped, making it feel like you are eating more than you are. But do not be lulled into complacency by its availability. Corn is a global commodity, used for fuel, feed, and food. As fertilizer shortages and transport costs drive up the price of corn, popcorn will not be immune. We are already seeing shrinkflation, where package sizes dwindle while prices rise. When the general public realizes that their cheap snacks are actually vital food sources, the shelves will empty. A 50-pound bag of kernels properly sealed is an insurance policy against both hunger and depression. Stockpile it now, before the secret is out and the price skyrockets beyond reach. 15. The fuel saver. In the grim calculus of survival, you must constantly balance caloric intake against energy expenditure. You cannot afford to spend an hour gathering wood or burning precious propane just to cook breakfast. This is where rolled oats reign supreme. They are the ultimate low-input survival food. While they are best eaten warm, rolled oats possess a unique quality. They are pre-steamed and rolled flat during processing. This means they can be eaten safely after simply soaking in cold water. In a worst-case scenario where you have no fire and no electricity, you can still have a digestible, filling meal. This cold soak capability is a tactical advantage that rice and beans simply cannot match. Oats are the fuel that built nations, a peasant food that provides sustained, slow-burning energy. They are packed with fiber that stabilizes blood sugar, preventing the dangerous energy crashes that lead to bad decision-making in high-stress environments. A bowl of oats in the morning keeps you full and focused until the afternoon. They are also the master of disguise in the kitchen. You can use them to stretch meatloaf, thicken watery soups, or grind them into oat flour for baking. They absorb the flavor of whatever you have, making them a versatile base for sweet or savory rations. Historically, during times of war and depression, oats are among the first grains to vanish because they are so cheap and effective. We are currently seeing bulk prices inch upward as production costs rise. At less than $1 a pound, they are still a bargain, but that window is closing. As inflation forces families to downgrade their diets, demand for cheap staples like oats will explode. You need to buy them deep and stack them high right now. Sealed in Mylar, they will wait patiently for a decade. Secure this foundational food source before the rest of the world wakes up to its true value. 16. The 25-cent psychological shield. In the deep, quiet dread of a collapsing economy, morale becomes just as critical as ammunition or water. When the days are long, the news is terrifying, and the house is cold, the human mind begins to fracture under the weight of despair. This is where the humble brick of ramen noodles transforms from a college staple into a psychological lifeline. At 25 cents a unit, it is currently the cheapest hot meal you can buy, but its true value lies in its ability to restore a sense of normalcy. When you are staring at a bowl of plain white rice for the 14th day in a row, your appetite will fail. You will stop eating enough calories simply because the food is unpalatable. Ramen prevents this dangerous apathy. The magic isn't just in the noodles, which cook in minutes using barely any fuel. The real treasure is the seasoning packet. In a world where spices are luxury items and salt is scarce, that small silver packet is survival gold. You can use it to flavor a pot of foraged greens, bland potatoes, or